Okay, yes, we are live on YouTube as well. Hello, Durud and Shalom. Okay, Nare. Hi guys, let's get started.
All right, so we are starting with our topics. I already have a list. Sophie is the first person to start. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not used to going first. I want everyone just to talk about al-Sadi, which Armin, you brought up a little bit. There's more in Reuters and Al Jazeera, Jerusalem Post. These attacks are really widespread. So they spanned all the way from he's being connected to Amsterdam, London, Paris, Toronto, the U.S. consulate there, synagogues there, the Michigan attack, but going back to March and April. New York City, Scottsdale, Arizona, Los Angeles. He was going to pay $1,000 to a U.S. Federal officer. That's how he got trapped by Kash Patel.
So let's give context to people who don't know what we're talking about, right? So let's do that. Hold on.
Can you do that, please?
Yeah, I will do that for you. I will do that. Okay, so this is a big news. An Iraqi national and senior member of a U.S. designated terror organization. Well, actually, let me get the. I think the Iran International summary is better than Fox News. So, an Islamic Republic-backed Iraqi militia commander has been arrested and charged with plotting attacks on Jewish and American targets in the United States, including a New York synagogue, in alleged retaliation for the war against Iran, against the Islamic Republic. His name is Muhammad Baqir Saad Dawood al-Sadi. People just call him al-Sadi, described by prosecutors as a senior Kataib Hezbollah figure. So Kataib Hezbollah, for people who don't know, is a major part of Hashd al-Shabi, or the Popular Mobilization Front, which is one of the the most important proxy of the Islamic Republic in Iraq, right? So he's a senior Kataib Hezbollah figure, is accused of helping coordinate at least 18 attacks in Europe and 2 in Canada since late February. That's a lot, 18 since, just a few months ago, while also seeking attacks in New York and Los Angeles. The New York Times said it was unclear how he was arrested and brought to the US. So he's in New York now in prison. He is expected to be presented in federal court in Manhattan on Friday. Okay, so go ahead now that we summarized it.
Sorry, I just thought that it sounded too narrow, and I wanted people to be aware of how expansive it really was. It was throughout Europe. It was far-reaching in the United States. Scottsdale, Arizona, and Los Angeles were included. These are from Reuters. They're from Jerusalem Post, from Al Jazeera, getting the direct quotes. He's now claiming, by the way, that he's a political prisoner and that they're only going after him because of his connections to Qasem Soleimani, which is very funny to me. Like, yes, we do hate you for that reason, and that's fine. But he's been charged for a number of things, material support to international terrorist organizations, and he had blueprints for the facilities for things like the JCC. I know some of these facilities, these Jewish facilities, and it went beyond just Jewish things. It was, New York type. There were banks and other places. There was the U.S. consulate in Toronto, very focused on both American and Israeli and Jewish anything. So, and Turkey was involved, and then they've also been trying to crack down with Iraq, getting them to the U.S., trying to get them to rein in their terrorist people. But I think it's really important to see how expansive and enormous this was. It went all through Europe and in Canada. And those countries and Canada were not the ones cracking this. This was Kash Patel and the US FBI, and literally having him trying to pay a federal informant and saying, get it done now. I want it. The explicit quote was something like, I don't want to hear about it tomorrow, brother. I want it done right away. So, and paying that federal informant is what is the final linchpin in the case. So that's what was presented. That's all.
That's amazing to know. Do you know how? First thing I want to add to this is that I'm so glad that he's being taken to the U.S. I don't know if people understand how humiliating this is. Like, if he died, if they killed him, the people who support him will say like, "Oh, what an honor! He died in battle. He's a hero." But now that he's arrested and he's in New York, in the country that he hates, he failed his operation and has been like being arrested by the Americans is humiliating. Being killed by the Americans is considered a badge of honor and more like basically you the best thing that could happen to you by being arrested by them is very humiliating. Do you know how was Turkey involved? Do you know?
There was something Reuters article. I'd have to pull that up again. I'm not really good with screen shares, but that was yesterday. I brought this up to our discussion group in open session because it was breaking then, and he was in court then, and it mentioned something about Turkey having cooperated with the United States also. I don't. And then, like I said, the other papers are talking about Iraq also, like U.S. pressuring them, get control of these crazy militias that you have that are Shia IRGC aligned, but it's full IRGC, alignment. So,
yeah. Well, no, I'm glad that you brought that to our attention. Was there any other people that wanted to? Oh, yeah, I think people wanted to talk about
Yes.
that. But
Samantha,
just to make us celebrate this more, this guy was main mission was to kill Jews. Like this guy was the the Islamic Republic's main Jew killing commander, and now he's arrested. So that's great. Ali was actually brought this to my attention yesterday. So, yeah.
Samantha is on the list to respond.
Dude, very happy he's caught. Thank God. Yeah, I just wanted to say I am so happy that this man is caught. But keep in mind, like, imagine what would happen if we had someone who was like just I want you to think like what would happen if someone like Rashida Tlaib was in like the president instead of Trump. How this like and ask yourself, do you think like as much attention would have gone like into catching this dude?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, this is probably many more Jews would be dead if it wasn't because of who's in charge right now in the United States. That's a very good point. We got a super chat by Dominic saying, wait, where is it? He's saying he's gonna face the love dogs now. Oh no. Oh no, Dominic, that is okay. Okay.
Or they can come to my dungeon. Those who know.
Oh wow.
Sketch, you're to respond next.
Oh wow. I want to know.
I want to say that there's a reason that American police don't try to shoot the bad guys. They try to put them in jail because you have a lot of leverage against them. You can start either making the outside or the other parties like use one against the other, make them think they talked, and they start to get disavowed. It's a dishonor to be caught, but also from just a strategic standpoint, you don't want that guy to live because that guy knows your operations. I believe Operation Economic Fury has a large play in this when we're talking about Turkey. I'm guessing Turkey doesn't want to be sanctioned for whatever this guy wanted to do. And they're like, hey, look at him over here. We had nothing to do with this. Go get him. That's the kind of thing that I'd love to see. This also goes back to what His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi was talking about the reclamation, because these people are funded by theft from the Iranian people. Now, even as they scatter to the four winds, not only do you have to catch them, you have to get any finances, find out how their finances, freeze those finances, and get all the other nations to cooperate. If this was, as Cash said, an international effort, I imagine FBI sort of works internationally once the guy is inside, but he has international ties, probably working with CIA too. I want to see more of this. I see this as part of economic fury, and I want more of this. I want any country, be allied, I don't care if it's France, UK, Canada, you can't be hiding these people. You got to start turning them in. And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sketch. Shauna, you wanted to respond as well.
Can everybody hear me? Okay. I just think that's a really good point, Sketch. I was trying to figure out why Turkey would be involved, but yeah, if they're being threatened with sanctions or whatever, technically they're an ally. They're kind of a weird ally for America, but they're technically an ally. I also want to say that Cash Patel is my favorite Indian import, the best Indian import that we've had to America.
Okay.
My very favorite, the best one so far. Anyway, the end.
We have a question.
Oh.
Roman Viking is saying, which different roles exist in these in these terror networks? What do different people do? Organizer, financier, attacker, smuggler. So I actually looked that up. We have the directors, the people behind the scenes who are doing the intelligence officers. Like, for example, this would be with people within the agency who provide the funding and the long-term strategy while maintaining total deniability. That would be the directors, number one. Then we have the handlers. These are the operational commanders. These are the mid-level leaders. Like Al Sadi is one of them. He would be one of the operational commanders who manage cross-border logistics, select the exact targets, and distribute crypto or cash to fund active operations. So that's number two. Then three, we have the digital recruiters. So tech savvy operators who go through social media, scour social media apps like Snapchat and Telegram to find vulnerable locals and spread propaganda and basically recruit people. And then we have the fixers. Number four would be the fixers, the logistical facilitators. These are the local assets on the ground who scout targets, set up untraceable crypto wallets, and acquire weapon or bomb making materials. And then fifth, we have the gig workers, the disposable agents. These are local teenagers or low-level criminals recruited online. They are paid quick, small cash amounts to execute an attack, like an arson or stabbing, and are treated as completely expendable. So those are the five types. All right.
Okay, and back to Sophie. She wanted to respond, like add in. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I just answer because it's hard for me to go back and forth with on my phone with the things. I found the thing for Armin. It's that in the original Reuters report yesterday, ABC News is the one that said he was taken into custody within Turkey and transferred to U.S. authorities. In other instances, because it's diplomatically sensitive, the U.S. is declining to acknowledge which international place he came from. They're just not talking about it. They've been a little bit close-lipped and then releasing things. And then just in case anyone is interested, just a brief quote from where Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, are talking about him being presented before Judge Sarah Netburn in Manhattan Federal Court, the magistrate. He said, thanks to the dedication and vigilance of law enforcement, this alleged terrorist commander is now in U.S. custody. As alleged in the complaint, al-Sadi directed and urged others to attack U.S. and Israeli interests and to kill Americans and Jews in the U.S. and abroad, and in doing so, advance the terrorist goals of Kataib, Hezbollah, and Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And then it goes on and on. You should, if you want to check Jerusalem Post, y'all, and a few others, even the Al Jazeera one, there's really crazy. We have a lot of really good evidence on him. He's got a lot of videos about killing Americans and Jews wherever you find them, and this being a duty for all Muslims. He's got videos of these going back months that they have on him. So that's all.
Awesome. Thank you for bringing that up, Sophie. All right. Next topic. Armin, you want to add?
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to add about Turkey. Turkey is very motivated to help with United States and other countries when it comes to finding terrorists, because they suffer from a lot of terrorist attacks themselves, so they want to be able to rely on United States to help them with their terrorism problem. So they have a motivation to help out because they also need other people to help them with that information. So to give them information, right?
Shauna, you want to add something, but quickly because we want to move on to.
Yeah, I just have a quick question to Armin. Sorry. Why? I feel like isn't Turkey's terrorist problem the fact that they're an Islamistic country with a dictator? I feel like that promotes terrorism.
I mean, when you do Islamic stuff, you also suffer from it as well. Like the countries that suffer from Islamic terrorism the most are the Islamic countries, right? So when you lean
Okay.
into Islam, yeah, when you lean into Islam, you also you also suffer from Islam.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right. New topic. Noah wants to talk about Trump-Iran warning. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm sending this in the link as well. Trump has landed back from his Chinese visit. He gave a report to French television saying that Tehran would face a very bad time if it failed to reach an agreement. And now Israeli media is saying in Iran International that there'd be he's expected to make a 24-hour decision. But what's interesting is about 40 some minutes ago, and this is what I sent in the chat, Armin, is that there was a Truth Social post that there was orders from a U.S. warship to fire on the Islamic Republic flag saying, okay, we are in our sights, fire. So I'm thinking it's any day now. By any day, I mean probably within the next 2 to 3 days. And I'm wondering what everyone else thinks about this.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can see it, Armin.
Yeah, I see it. Actually, let me change the banner based on the news that we're covering. Okay, so let me look at it. So Trump post animation. Here, let me actually just put it here. Trump posts animation ordering strikes on Iranian aircraft. U.S. President Donald Trump on Saturday posted an animation on Truth Social in which he orders a U.S. warship to fire at an aircraft bearing the Islamic Republic's flag, saying, "Okay, we have it in our sight, fire." So, yeah. And the caption that Donald Trump posted is new media post from Donald J. Trump. Oh, no, this is actually an X account showing what he posted on Truth Social. Okay. And there's an animation that goes with it. Let me see if what the animation shows. It's just basically a ship going and then getting. Oh, okay. It's just basically a ship taking down a drone. All right. So, yeah, I do. Hold on, let me go back here. I do. I do see a lot of signs that maybe an attack is imminent, but some people are saying that President Trump. I'm seeing two different types of analysis. I see a lot of people saying that an attack is coming very, very soon, but I also saw Menashe Amir on Iran International, who's an Israeli analyst, saying that he talked to some Israeli officials, and they think that President Trump is going to need more time to decide. But President Trump needs to make a decision within the next few weeks. Like the deadline for making a decision is coming soon. But some people are suggesting that based on everything they're saying, we're days away from an attack. I do want to see what other people here have to say about this. So, and like Jeffrey and Sketch and other people who have better information regarding military operations and everything they're seeing, are we seeing an attack happening within the next couple of hours, or is Menashe Amir correct? And based on the information that he has within Israel, he thinks that no, President Trump requires more time to make a decision.
All right, so we have many twos in the chat. Daniel Dome is the first one.
Thank you, Nare. And although we in Israel see, like in our air, in the skies, we see a lot of American airplanes, all of them, like different types of the airplanes, whether if it's fighter jets, if it's bombers, if these are tankers. But like, I don't know if Israel will take an active part like it was in the Roaring Lion. I think Israel will this time use the informational noise to finish the job with Hamas and Hezbollah, while I believe the Arab countries who are around Iran will take more active part along with, or maybe separately with, like while America will do some operations in Iran. That's how I see it.
Okay.
All right, next sketch.
I found some interesting news. There was an armament ship that was hijacked by the IRGC, just found floating. I think it was close to Qatar, or one of those countries on the other side of the Persian Gulf. And it was like a China, it's a ship that China controls. So I think there's double messaging on China, because one of the things that might have been something planned earlier, but I think one of the things that Trump wanted to do when he went to China, it's not enough to agree. Oh, you agree that Iran can't have a nuclear? Okay, so give me some intel. You're in there, right? If you're making a deal with me, if you want to make these deals with me, give me some intel I can use on this war now. Give me some papers I can pass by my people so I can get rid of this problem that we both have, because I know you're having problems with this too, China. And I'm almost certain China didn't want this to extend this long. So you want to help me out? You want to prove that we should do these deals? You got to give me some intel on Iran. And if he has good enough intel that he can pass by the security committees, then I would imagine things are moving. I would imagine that might be one of the things that's going on. But I also found it interesting. I got a report from Max Afterburner specifically about that weapons ship. I'll put it in the chat. But I find these two things interesting, and how China plays a role in these upcoming events.
All right, thank you, Sketch. Jim, you are next.
I wanted to make this point. I wish I brought it up earlier about either Trump or Bibi doing a future attack on Iran. I'm curious why these guys didn't decide to target the Iranian so-called justice system, or the Islamic Republic's justice system, and particularly Asia E and Khalili, with all the political executions going on. You'd think you'd want to get rid of these guys much sooner than later. I know Armin and Goldie, you guys talked about that last week. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
This is a question that I see so many Iranians ask on Murad Vaisi's live chat. They say, like, why AG was not targeted, why AG was not targeted. And Murad Vaisi always answers them that because our priorities is not their priorities. They're saying that the Iranian people, what we think is like what the people who we want dead first are not the same as the what the Americans. They have their own strategic priorities, and it doesn't always match ours. That's the answer that he gives. What do you think about that answer?
I mean, it makes sense from a logical point, but I'm just thinking, just as the humanitarian side of me, it's like if you're going to try to keep as many of your people alive as possible, that's who your prime target would be. You would imagine, but I don't know. I wanted to get everybody else's opinion on it, because that always struck me as strange.
Killing AJ would not give that much of a strategic advantage to the United States. It would give it would actually indirectly, if you think about it, because it would motivate the Iranian people so much more. It will really give them a lot of energy and motivation to see AJ dead. So, and it will also make the to be honest, like, Iranian people are becoming a little bit, and they're half on. Well, not half, but some of them are disappointed with why the Americans didn't continue the military operations. We do see some Iranians suggest that Trump should just listen to Netanyahu. And again, I'm not saying all of many Iranians like adore President Trump, and they love him so much. But we also do hear some of them saying, like, if it was up to Netanyahu, the Islamic Republic would have fallen by now. Some of them suggest that if we just went with what he wanted to do and we didn't do a ceasefire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nail Bunny, you're next.
Yeah, you were asking about whether we think there's going to be strikes or something. I actually sent you a post, an ex post from Iran International, where it was about, well, I can't see it right now and it's in Persian, so I can't tell you. So you can look at it. It's the most recent one I sent you on Telegram. And it's basically that it's a report from Israel's Channel 13, I think it was, about what they actually think it's going to be in very, very soon, like today or tomorrow. So
Really? Let me.
if you
Sure.
want to look,
No, I did. I have looked at it. I don't know why it's not telling you that I'm looking at it. So I don't know why. So I'm actually going to read it. So this is from a few hours ago. Yeah, this is very fresh new. Okay, thank you, Neil Bunny. Let me read it. Israel's Channel 13 reported that assessments in the Israeli army indicate that Trump, upon returning from China, will issue an order to attack the Islamic Republic. Ooh, wow. As attack the Islamic Republic in order to catch Tehran off guard for the third time in less than a year. Okay. According, guys, what is channel Israelis? What? Let me know about Channel 13. Are they like how reliable are they? And it says, according to this report, killing senior official. If that's the case, why would you expose this? Like you're taking the element of surprise away. According to this report, someone's mic is open. According to this report, killing senior officials of the Islamic Republic will be among the attack's objectives. Channel 13 wrote, the goal is to strike a blow to the Iranian regime and force the Islamic Republic back to the negotiating table from a position of weakness. According to the plans, the scheduled attack will include targeting governmental infrastructure, energy targets, and power plants. The report continued, it is estimated that the Air Force in this joint attack will attempt to target senior officials of the Iranian regime. The Israeli army hopes the war will last only a few days. Interesting. This is big news. And this is just from, thank you, Nobani. This is just from only 2 hours ago. Amazing. What do you guys, okay, think about this. Oh, oh, oh. Sorry, I wasn't
What's
sharing
that?
the group. Sorry. Go say that again. I wasn't sharing the group. Say that again. Sorry. Go back.
Which one?
Go back to your point that you were making.
Oh yeah. So there's, you have President Trump's statements. He talks about decimation will continue or be continued. This is all pre-strike signaling, essentially saying patience is running out. The door is wide open for force. Second indicator is, and this was, dropped by the New York Times. I know, fucking New York Times, right? Ugh. Pentagon is prepping major escalation plans. So Pentagon has drawn up fresh strike options that can kick off as early as next week if talks keep failing. The top of the list is possible special forces raids, hundreds of operators to seize or destroy remaining nuclear material at facilities at Lake Isfahan, although, that has its own issues there. Broader airstrikes on IRGC remnants, the regime remnants. Remember what I said, guys? Underground missile sites, command nodes are also on the table. You have like 5K plus Marines and about 2,000 plus paratroopers ready to surge into the region to support. That's the strongest operational indicator we've seen in a couple of weeks. The U.S. military posture and mobilization signals. This is a big one. So Kara strike groups and B-52 bombers have confirmed position for immediate kinetic operations, which means, President Trump and the Pentagon readouts emphasize readiness. There's no fly zones. Tanker activities are ticking up all over. Ascent Cat very much puts that on her YouTube channel. That very much matches like the kind of the force posture that we've seen prior to the strikes. You have the regime remnants. They're trying to reconstitute all their bullshit. So they're like, Intel confirms regime remnants possibly have regained access to 30 out of 33 of their missile positions along the Strait of Hormuz. They were cleaning out debris and trying to dig out buried launchers and all this other shit. And that they they deployed their bullshit mini subs as invisible guardians in the strait, right? So basically they're poking Donald, which is probably not a good idea. Brent crude, so the oil market and diplomatic kind of signals. The Brent crude is climbing again on the Hormuz blockade fears. So the Trump G call produced zero firm Chi-Com commitment to pressure the regime remnants on nukes or shipping. It was just a vague agreement on that Hormuz shouldn't be militarized. Marketing, shipping, insurers are pricing regarding renewed disruption. That's classic early warning economic indicators. So what does this all mean like as a takeaway? I would say that we are very much I could say with a very high degree of human certainty, there's a very high degree of probability we are in the talks failing plus the United States is planning visible phase. There's no shots being fired right now. That said, it could be fired at any second though, because every box for imminent resumption has gotten ticked off, especially the special forces nuclear raid option and President Trump's decisive language. This is something I want to say and make sure to send it to the regime remnant dickheads that are still fucking around in Iran. If you do not fold fast, most analysts would say that your asses are on the target list, hit list, and whatever IRGC leadership and underground assets are going to be obliterated. So if I were you, I would seriously suggest you do some serious fucking introspective analysis on how quickly you want to meet your 72 goats. Because Donald's done with your bullshit. No one cares about your mosaic defense crap. We got more than enough GPS guided munitions to take out all you fuckers wherever the hell you try to hide.
Love it.
Okay.
Love it. Armin, you're next.
Okay. All right. So just to give a summary to everybody about the people who argue that they don't think that an attack is happening soon, and also the people that say that an attack is happening soon. So these are the people who think that we're a while away from attacks happening. So these are the points that they make. They say the foreign minister, the Islamic Republic foreign minister Abbas Araghchi, confirmed that they received communication from the Trump administration, indicating a willingness to open new negotiations to resolve the deadlock over the nuclear program and regional conflicts. So that's what they pointed to that. I mean, I don't know why they trust Araghchi, but okay. And the U.S. State Department announced an extension of the temporary Lebanon ceasefire by 45 days. This is a recent news, by the way. This cooling off period directly reduces the immediate risk of a wider regional flare-up, they point out. Trump recently warned Iran that it would have a very bad time regarding its proposed transit toll mechanism in the Strait of Hormuz, bragging that the U.S. could knock everything out in 2 days. Analysts view this as a coercive diplomacy, using massive threats as leverage to force Iran to the negotiating table rather than a prelude to imminent bombing campaign. So these are the things. Also the China factor. Following recent summit between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping, China has been actively pressuring both sides towards a peace deal. She has reportedly offered to help mediate the Strait of Hormuz deadlock, giving both nations an off ramp. So these are the points against an imminent attack. So let's look at the points for that. So for people are talking about online, Trump recently rejected Tehran's latest peace proposal, calling the document garbage and officially declaring the fragile U.S. Iran ceasefire is now saying that the fragile U.S.-Iran ceasefire is now on massive life support. So that's number one. Then we have direct warnings. Following his recent summit with China's Xi Jinping, Trump expressed extreme frustration over stalled negotiations. He publicly threatened to revive military action, warning that the military decimation of the Islamic Republic is to be continued. And then we have the Strait of Hormuz escalation. The U.S. recently resumed naval operations to force open the blockaded Strait of Hormuz. Trump has issued ultimatums warning that Iran will face higher level strikes and be blown off the face of the earth if they attack U.S. vessels attempting to clear the waterway. So those are the 3 points people bring up that suggest that, because these are some red lines that have been drawn and crossed. So people would be like, it's hard to believe that Trump would not respond to that soon. Also, I just wanted to thank the new member that we have on YouTube. Veteran Huffman just became a member on Liberty Politics. So thank you for that. Appreciate that. Okay.
Okay, next person to respond is Shauna.
I just want to make sure I heard Jeffrey correctly. Did he say he talked about Marines paratroopers? So are we looking at boots on the ground? Is that what that looks like? Troops on the yes, Jeffrey, or I just want to make sure I heard you correctly.
Jeffrey?
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. If with regards to the Marines and or airborne troops, I would contend they're almost assuredly going to be used to grab certain key islands and deny the Mullah regime any ability to use them to hold the Strait of Hormuz or our allies or non-combatant shipping hostage ever again.
Okay, so grabbing islands, what does that mean?
So, like, think Kesem, think Karj, think the the lesser and northern and southern lock or less. It's been a long week.
The
islands, right?
Bozorg, Abu Musa, and also Lavan.
There you go. Yeah. There's the one.
I understand that there's a bunch of islands near it as part of Iranian territory. I understand that conceptually. I mean, what do they mean by grabbing it? I mean, would that just be to fend them off until the revolution? I mean, like, what do we have any idea what that means?
We would probably liberate those islands so that they can no longer be reoccupied by IRGC remnants and be used to threaten our allies, our forces, Gulf state allies, or non-combatant commercial shipping again. Additionally, also to probably hold them, if they do what I suggested, and hold them in and as like to be good stewards of them and liberate them for Iranian people. There's plenty of oil on Karj Island that can be then, sold at market prices to us and our allies, even if it's at a slightly discounted price, and bought from, say, His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi and the transitionary government if they were hopefully recognized as the government in exile. And that would provide all the kinds of resources needed to develop a sustained track 2 material support strategy that would inevitably leverage and or develop the anti-Mullah Persian diaspora outside of Iran to train them up and go throughout Iran like a bunch of Cuisinarts, killing whatever IRGC and or besieged remnants are left.
All right, thanks for answering. I don't want to take up too much of the chat. We have a lot to get to. Let's circle back about that later, Jeffrey. Bye.
Thank you, Shauna. Sketch, your insights.
Okay, track 2 material support. When you hear Jeff says that, that's like support as far as equipment and weapons, probably small arms. That's what he's talking about. You're going to hear that a lot. Track 2 material support. He's just using the language we use, but to Walmart Americans, that just means supplies and weapons. That's what it means. And I would imagine the focus would be more on the Strait and less on Karg, because Karg can become a target. You could just make that a giant bomb, and they might lash out and hit their own infrastructure. So I would focus on the Strait. That would be my guess, that they would go straight for the Strait, pun intended, and that would be where my focus would be. I would also like to remind everybody that we hit 13,000 targets. All right, not 1,300, 13,000 targets. So I understand that the people of Iran are well, hunger and suffering is going to do something to demoralize you, no matter how clear you are that the help is probably more than anyone else has done. So I can understand that. But we, as people who are on the outside and maybe have a little message in it, can tell them, look, these guys hit 13,000 targets. They had to rearm and resupply. They had to rearm and refuel. Don't take this ceasefire as, oh, they're making a deal. Take it as, oh, we're doing what the IRGC does. We're using ceasefires and negotiations as a trick to rearm and resupply. We're just playing them at their own game. Don't be disheartened, because you got to look at it literally. We hit 13,000 targets. That's a lot of targets, and we're doing more than anyone else has done in 47 years. So don't get down. I know hunger and suffering is gonna demotivate anybody. You're only human. But if I would give anything to give hope, is to remember no one has done more in 47 years. We hit 13,000 targets, and I'm betting next time it's gonna be more than that. So just keep hope alive.
Thank you, Sketch. Jeffrey, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick to elaborate on what Sketch had said, if they go with the maximalist strike package that me and other kind of maximalists are pushed up the channel, up the chain, we hit 13,000 targets in 30 plus days. This will be 36,000 targets in 5 days. That's the end of the regime. I mean, there's nowhere you're going to run. I can go through the target list like I've done before. I won't do that. Understand with the IRGC and besieged leadership, which is what is being targeted, the remnants, you're talking about killing every fucking officer and leader in the IRGC and besieged down to the lieutenant. You're talking about every regime element being pasted and obliterated. You're talking about all the conventional ground forces being destroyed, like tanks and IPCs and all that stuff, all gone. All the stuff in the Strait of Hormuz is dead. So, like, I don't know why they keep, well, I do know why. If Donald goes with the maximalist approach and he gives Pete the go ahead, the forces that we have there now is well above and beyond anything we had in the initial strike at like the 28th of February. Yeah. That's going to be a spicy meatball, man.
Armin, you're next.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the taking over of the island on the Persian Gulf, I always was wondering, how could you protect the U.S. soldiers if they take over those islands, given that, I don't know, like the Patriot system or the THAAD is not going to be there with them. And if they take over those islands, we have like all of the stuff. There will be a lot of drones and missiles coming at them, because it's not just that they have to take over the island, they have to hold it as well. So you just basically, the soldiers are just in those islands and just sitting there, and basically under heavy bombardment by the Islamic Republic with no THAAD, with no Patriot system. I mean, can we bring these interceptors? Like, are they going to just bring them there to the islands to protect the soldiers? And if we are bringing it there, where are we bringing it from? I do know that we don't have like unlimited interceptors to keep and I think like if American soldiers are there, the Islamic Republic is going to try to throw everything that they have at them. So there's that, but I also was checking this, and I don't know if there's other ways to stop the missiles and drones. I'm looking at this. People is saying high energy lasers. what high-powered microwave weapons and tactical electronic warfare system like the Ninja platform. I don't know what that is. They can blind or fry drone guidance systems instantly. Okay. And then there's also automated networks like the Project Flytrap and Hollow Shield architecture use AI to link radars across the island, instantly tracking and assigning the cheapest weapon to defeat incoming swarms. And then we have also bunker and decoys. Troop survives saturation strikes by using reinforced underground fortifications. Well, can they build that right there, right that fast? Well, physical and electronic decoys trick enemy missiles into hitting empty sand. So yeah, I don't know how realistic this is, um, and whether or not they're going to be able to move all of this there. I know it's not easy moving heavy air defense like the Patriot battery is like moving that is like a logistical nightmare, and you're also now leaving somewhere else defenseless if you move it there. The like the Patriot battery requires dozens of massive vehicles, heavy trailers, and intense maintenance, making them highly vulnerable to attack while being transported across the water. I know, like, we have amphibious those. If you look at USS Tripoli and USS Boxer, I don't know if they are meant for armored vehicles and other amphibious capable kind of vehicles like hovercrafts. I don't know if you could move the Patriot with them and fast before while they're being moved around. They're not active while they're being moved, so the Islamic Republic might want to hit the Patriot system with drones and missiles while they're being moved around. That would be really devastating if you could get that done. Also, when talking about amphibious strike groups, I don't know why we keep looking at the US is constantly giving us updates regarding Tripoli, but the Boxer, like the USS Boxer, we have been waiting for USS Boxer to arrive, because if we are going to be taking over any islands, you would assume that the USS Boxer will be involved, but we haven't seen the USS Boxer anywhere, and we don't even know if it's close to the Persian Gulf. You would assume that if it was going through the Malacca Strait, it would have been seen by somebody on land. So people assume that, given that there's no sighting of it, people think that it's still over there, close to Philippines or whatever, instead of being close to over here. But there's no update regarding that. So I don't know. If I would assume that if they want to take over islands in the Persian Gulf, they would bring both Tripoli and USS Boxer there at the same time. So there's that.
All right, we have 2 more responses, and it's almost an hour, and we've only had one topic.
So
okay.
Nara, you could cut the number of responses to a certain number if you want to get to the
Okay,
stuff.
I will do that starting with the next one. But Jeffrey, did you want to add something real quick? And then we'll move on. Okay, sorry, Sketch.
Real quick. So you asked a lot of very valid points in regards to how would you defend forces on, say, Kark Island from being targeted by IRGC remnants, missile, and mass drone attack. The reason we'd go there first is to deny the IRGC from using Cargill and the oil there to commit a mass act of environmental, economic, and ecological terrorism. As far as defending against incoming air and missile attacks, you kind of touched on a couple: directed energy, weaponized drone swarms, rotor wing aircraft acting in the close air support to shoot down drones with 30 Mike, just like the Israelis did. So think about the video that you talked about or that you cited with regards to what was posted by President Trump. What happened in that video? You've seen a drone, and it was destroyed by a high energy laser.
Yeah, and the caption,
All right.
"Bing bing bang bang gun." Also, don't forget that was important to add to the caption.
We have the best lasers in the world. They're all dipped in gold. Us and lasers, the best of friends.
They're all gonna die like a dog.
The bing bing bang gun is technical term in military that most people don't know. But yeah. All right. Let's go.
Okay, Daniel Dome, new topic. China paid to arm Taiwan is the topic.
China what? Say that again.
China paid to arm Taiwan.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So this might sound a little provocative, but I just wondered on how much cost 200 Boeing planes, and the figure was about 23 to 25 billion dollars. And then I checked on how much HIMARS MLRS um, missile launchers came are in the deal for Taiwan, and about 100 HIMARS launching systems, which are it's a track and launcher and a packet of missiles, and 100 of them, and they cost about $11 billion. So China actually helped to US to arm Taiwan like twice.
I mean, I don't know if that's a good way of looking at it, because China buys a lot from the United States. So they buy soy, they buy oil. Do you want to basically attribute all of that to arming Taiwan? I don't think that's a accurate way of looking at it. Somebody could actually look at the opposite of that and saying China getting closer and closer to United States and being beneficial financially to United States makes the United States become less, make them both more interdependent, and makes the United States less eager to provoke China with the Taiwan issue. That's another argument that some people are making, because if you have so much financial ties, two countries that have a lot of financial ties don't want to piss each other off. So I'm not saying that that's the case. I know the United States is interested in defending Taiwan, but it's not a black and white thing, it's a spectrum. And there are many people argue that President Trump's closeness to the CCP means that is the reason why he doesn't as support Taiwan as aggressively as United States did before, right? I mean, the support is always there. Obviously, Taiwan is very important, but Donald Trump's support for Taiwan has become more conditional and skeptical and transactional compared to how it used to be before. So let me actually look at this. Rather than offering a traditional or guaranteed security blanket to Taiwan, his approach treats Taiwan as a strategic and economic bargaining chip. So here's some. So for example, following his high-stake Beijing summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping, Trump openly stated that pending $14 billion U.S. arms package to Taiwan is being held up because it is a very good negotiating chip in dealing with China. So it used to be like more unconditional than this. When the U.S. looks at Taiwan, supporting Taiwan, right? And then also, Trump explicitly warned Taiwan against pursuing formal independence, stating that he does not want the U.S. to travel 9,500 miles to fight a war. He emphasized that he wants both sides to cool down and maintain the current status quo. And then we also have the Trump administration has heavily pressured Taiwan to quadruple its defense budget to an unprecedented 10% of its GDP. This is actually very good. I like that. I think Taiwan needs to become more, President Trump, with using this language, has made NATO member countries spend more on their military. This is good that President Trump is also making Taiwan spend 10% of its GDP. Holy crap, that's like really high. So that's roughly $100 billion, raising deep anxieties in Taipei regarding the reliability of the U.S. as a security partner. By the way, this is very true, regardless of whether I know some of you agree with this or disagree with this regarding President Trump reducing its support on Taiwan or making it conditional. But whatever your opinions are, we have the we have polls that shows that that's what the people in Taiwan think. The people in Taiwan are thinking that US is not backing them as much as they used to. That's that even if you disagree with these points, that is how people in Taiwan are feeling regarding US support for Taiwan right now. And then we also, this is very important, reshoring microchips. Trump continues to demand that Taiwan's world-leading semiconductor industry pack up and move to the US, telling reporters that getting chip makers to migrate to America is the greatest thing you can do. So while Trump's administration maintains the formal U.S. policy toward Taiwan, and that remains unchanged, his rhetoric and actions indicate he views Taiwan's through a business-like lens, conditioning military support on trade concessions from China and major financial or industrial compliance from Taiwan. Again, I don't see, like a lot of people think that that's an anti-Taiwan thing. I don't think that's an anti-Taiwan thing. I actually see that maybe that's actually a pro-Taiwan thing, because I think that removing the what are those wheels called? Like when you're biking and the child is on and you have those 8 wheels that aid you not to fall. What is it called?
Training wheels.
Training wheels. Removing training wheels on a bike is like on the bike of your child is not you wanting them to fall, right? It's actually making them more able to do the thing that they're supposed to do. So I think that's actually maybe actually a more long-term and more pro-Taiwan thing, in my opinion. Yeah, the training wheels. Do you guys agree with me, by the way, write in the chat if you agree with me that this is just a removal of training wheels so Taiwan could become more self-reliant? But yeah.
Oh, oops. Okay. Sketch, you're next. Yes.
We have a law that says we have to back them. Like, it's written into law. It's beyond presidents. Like, every president has to report on problems with Taiwan. We are directed under the law to provide material support and defense, military aid to Taiwan. It's good sales. They make a lot of money. And if they make a lot of money and buy a lot of guns, that's a lot of jobs, because we're not letting anybody else make this stuff. So there's that side of it. The president, I think, is of Supermicro, which is the biggest chip manufacturer in Taiwan, got arrested recently because he was sending stuff to China. I believe that was also in the news recently. So like, I think he would talk like he's not going to do it when he's in China, and then sell it during the campaign. As we're selling Taiwan a lot of guns, big guns, beautiful guns like you wouldn't believe this stuff. And they're being manufactured right here in the US of A. That's a lot of jobs. I believe all this stuff that we're going to stop selling. No. We're going to keep selling them stuff. But right now, we might, take some and like move them over here. Maybe you get some new stuff. Maybe you start working more with Japan, your neighbors over there. Maybe you guys start coordinating more with the Philippines, coordinating more with all these people, because another thing that we're doing in the South China Seas is making deals with all of these people and doing like we're doing with Israel and UAE. We're becoming the coordinator. We're becoming that eye in the sky, right? That's saying, hey, this is what's going on. You can attack from here. These people are moving over there, that kind of thing. Like, and we're seeing how flexible they are, because some people were upset at the missile batteries moving, and I can understand that as like maybe there's a probability, but I believe the statistical probability was more of a worry of a beginning pattern than a single action leading to an effect. You understand what I'm saying? Like, people in Taiwan are afraid that it's going to become like NATO, like we're trying to decouple, which is not what I think is happening. What I think is what's happening is we were reallocating resources in a temporary fashion and maybe getting rid of old stock. Maybe the next missiles they're going to get are even better than the ones we took away. You understand? That kind of thing. That's kind of what I'm seeing there, because there's a lot of new defense pacts all over South Asia, and I see nothing in the tech that they're talking about, in the defense strategies that they're talking about, and in the uniting of all these South China nations that have problems with China. Nothing of our coordination of dealing with all of them together makes me think we're backing off Taiwan. It seems to be a keystone in our efforts in the South China Sea as much as Japan is. More so than any other nations around there. Maybe Australia too, but that's a little far.
Thank you, Jeffrey. You can respond.
So, I mean, when it comes to Taiwan, I think Sketch touched on it, which is you have strategic ambiguity, and that's because we're having to deal with 3 areas of geostrategic importance that are now active. So Putin's criminalized counterintelligence states and belligerency in Europe, the Chinese Communist Party's belligerency in Southeast Asia, and all the stupid shit that the Mullah regime, now Mullah regime remnants, is doing in the Middle East. As far as like what our position is, again, Sketch touched on the law. Secretary of State Rubio made it very clear that the U.S. policy on Taiwan has not changed as of today, and that the arms sales decisions are still up to President Trump and Congress. So what's kind of going on? One of the things we looked at, me being one of them, with regards to the fact that Taiwan produces 95% of the high-end microprocessors, or maybe just microprocessors in general, in the world. And this was back in March of last year, right? Because you see increasing amounts of Chi-Com belligerency across the strait, violating Taiwanese airspace, all this other stupid shit that the Chi-Coms are doing. How do we sit there and move this critical industry away from the potential, and in many cases, actual line of conflict? And so we looked at trying to like move the ones that are there. That is almost impossible to do because they're on like the ASML, like high-end ultraviolet laser lithography machines are some of the most temperamental and sensitive machines built by human beings. And you couldn't even, there's only like 1,000 people that know how to take them apart or put them back together. And even if you did all that, you try to move it across the ocean, by the time it got to where they are, they would be worthless junk because all the stuff would be disaligned almost irrevocably. So what's the goal? The goal is to ensure that whatever production does happen versus to onshore, right, alternative productive means, and or whatever productive means that Taiwan is looking to build is produced here away from the line of conflict. So that way we don't have to worry about it. It's like a indirect way of supporting Taiwan. I would contend that Taiwan needs to get nuclear weapons. And I've been pushing for that in the open for almost 6 years now. If you want to invade Taiwan, eat 100 warheads. Let's see how you're good at being a superpower then. That's all I probably would need.
Thank you, Jeff. Armin, you are the last response on this topic, and then we'll move on.
Okay, so with regards to having a law to back Taiwan, again, I was talking about the level of support. I wasn't talking about whether we support them or not. That's why I keep saying that this is not black and white. This is not binary. This is a spectrum. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. And also with regards to the law, so this is the Taiwan Relations Act, the TRA, passed by Congress in 1979. This law requires the U.S. to provide Taiwan with defensive weapons, so it has the means to protect itself. It also states that, so basically this goes in line with what President Trump wants Taiwan to do, to spend more on buying weapons. It doesn't mean that the United States is going to come do your war for you. Yes, like so basically telling Taiwan to buy more weapons is completely in line with this TRA, the Taiwan Relations Act. It actually makes America be able to sell more weapons, right? So it also states that any attempt by China to determine Taiwan's future by force is a matter of grave concern. It uses those words to the U.S. So the TRA has strategic ambiguity, meaning the law intentionally leaves out any guarantees of direct US military intervention. This dual purpose gray area is designed to deter China from invading while discouraging Taiwan from officially declaring independence. So US position since 1979 is they don't this just the status quo, right? And then following Donald Trump's recent high-stakes summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping, a bipartisan coalition of U.S. lawmakers issued formal letters urging the administration to strictly uphold the TRA. However, while the law forces the U.S. to sell weapons to Taiwan, deciding whether to physically go to war remains entirely up to the president and Congress. There was two other points. So when you say uniting the South China Sea countries, that actually reminds me of the Abrahamic Accord. So the United States is trying to do a pivot away from the Middle East, and that's one thing that the Abrahamic Accord is for. The Abrahamic Accord is to try to get the countries in the Middle East to figure the shit out themselves without the United States always having to be there. So given that the Abrahamic Accord means that United States is trying to pivot away from the Middle East and just empower the countries there to do this themselves, I would think that, okay, then uniting the countries around the South China Sea is not necessarily a contradiction from the US trying to basically get these countries to support themselves rather than United States having to be there for them all the time. Like, it's not a contradiction from United States reduction, not removal, not complete stop, but reduction of support from Taiwan, which again, I don't think that's an anti-Taiwanese position. I think that might eventually, if that's the strategy, I think too much reliance on the US weakens a country, right? Too much reliance on the US weakens the country. I think it's actually a pro-Taiwanese position to have, to get them to spend more of their GDP on buying American weapons and to get Japan, Philippines, I don't know, Vietnam, South Korea to figure this shit out a little bit themselves. It helps them grow, right? That's good. You know, many countries spend so much on so many programs instead of their military because they are too reliant on the US military. It's good to remind them that, hey, you guys need to figure this shit out yourself. You can't just be waiting for United States to come fix your stuff for you, right? Also, when it comes to what Rubio says, Rubio is always more eager to, defend. You can't when it comes to talking about the Trump administration. Obviously, Rubio is going to always sound more aggressive and more supportive of like countries like Israel and Taiwan and I guess Cuba, I guess Venezuela. So that will always be there, right? So if we want to judge what the Trump administration's position is based on what Rubio says, then we're going to get the most hawkish comments from Rubio, and that's why we love him, So, but I just want to say, like, quoting Rubio is not really like, I mean, if somebody quoted JD Vance as the Trump administration position, I wouldn't feel like, well, JD Vance is part of the Trump administration, but quoting him is not necessarily the best accurate way of describing the Trump administration's position. That would give you one extreme on one end, and in the same way, quoting Rubio would give you the other extreme on the other end, right? So we have to take that into account. Anyways, I'm going to remove the banner. But what's the next topic?
Next topic, Shauna wants to speak about Chinese students in American universities.
Ooh, okay. Hold on. Chinese students in American universities. All right, let's do that.
Yes, Shauna, go ahead.
So this is something that they talked about, and I'm really frustrated, angry at our El Presidente at the moment, because he basically said we can't remove Chinese students. We have to let Chinese students come and study at our universities. We need to get Chinese students the fuck out of our universities. They're the ones that are stealing all of our tech. And I've never been more angry at the president than I am right now. Because like, I'm sorry, but we need a moratorium on Chinese students. And I'm sorry, I don't hate Chinese people. I would love for them to come and study. But the reality is they live under a dictatorship. They're going to steal our tech. They're trained to steal our tech. The only people that they're going to send to our colleges are the ones that are going to steal for them. They need to get off their fucking asses and do their own goddamn building rather than just stealing our stuff and profiting off of our stuff. We're buying stuff that we designed that they stole. Sorry, I'm done venting now. I also want to end the H-1B program completely. I don't want any more H-1B. I feel very betrayed right now as a Trump voter because I feel like he went and just sucked off Winnie the Pooh. And was like, oh yes, we'll just hand over our country. We're just going to hand you our country. It's fine. You gave me a parade with creepy synchronized Chinese children dancing, which, by the way, 8-year-olds should not be able to synchronize their dancing like that. That's weird. It's creepy. And that's how I feel. I would love to have some pushback, though.
Okay, and I think Jeff is here for that. Go ahead.
So Chandra is very right to be concerned about the national security risk posed by Chinese students coming to our universities. So I posted 4 links in the chat. One is the 2011 FBI counterintelligence report regarding how the Chinese Communist Party leverages our universities to underwrite their espionage campaign and influence operations against the United States. Another one from the FBI is something called Game of Pawns. It's based on a real-world case study where the Chinese Communist Party groomed a grad student to try and become an asset in place in the CIA until he got nabbed. The other one is the Counter Insider Theft of National Security Technology. It's like an insider threat program by President Trump's counterintelligence team. And the last one, which is in CPAC 2020 or 2015, if you want, you could play that from 50 minutes and 56 seconds in the video that was actually a panel that was China Rising, Enemy, Friend, or Frenemy. And at 50 minutes and 56 seconds, you'll see a certain someone, yours truly, ask a very particular question to Adele Nazarin and Gordon Chang and the rest of them regarding the role that the universities play in underwriting the Chinese Communist Party's espionage campaign. Regarding where President Trump is right now, I understand the aggravation. I think it's more like, again, 4D chess while he's handling other issues that are going on, not the least of which is the Chinese Communist Party's support of the regime remnants and or increased belligerency in the United States, while we're still setting up all our pieces to deal with an escalatory war that is probably going to happen, that we're in the opening stages of and will probably happen no matter what anybody does.
I just feel very betrayed. He went there with all the big tech guys who love, I'm sorry, but Elon, to me, Tim Apple, as Trump calls him, all these guys, I don't trust any of these guys. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have billionaires. I'm not against big business. I'm not against tech industry. But I don't feel like any of these guys have any loyalty to my country or to American workers. I don't think they give a fuck about us. I think they're billionaires who just want to make money. That's how I feel about them. So
real quickly, so that's a very valid concern. That's something called white labeling, that the Chinese Communist Party uses their control over access to the Chinese market to force other non-Chinese companies to do their lobbying on their behalf. Indeed, Senator Rubio is the one that coined that term and has actually been leading the charge in countering that for the past 11 years.
Yeah, Rubio, by the way, did get bonus points because he wore the tracksuit that they arrested. Like, he wore like the Maduro's like tracksuit or whatever. He's just a gem. Love Rubio. Anyway, that was my event. I didn't know if Armin had anything to say about it.
I put it too in the chat, so I will get.
Okay, yeah, go.
Yeah, we're gonna go through the responses quickly because we only have 45 minutes left. Sophie, go ahead.
Should I defer to Armin first? I'm happy to do so.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I have my two.
It's just very quickly. I mean, I agree with you, Shauna. I do think that there is a chance for intelligence collection the other way around, and I am trusting Trump and our current administration and future Rubio administration a little bit with that. But he does say that it will fail at at lower level universities. The Ivy Leagues and top universities will be fine, but taking out those high paying Chinese students, he says it makes a lot of universities fail. I don't know how many state or funding, but I would just say, because as somebody coming from university, a lot of people, they misunderstand how we do our top universities, where people say defund them. You don't want that. You want the best and brightest from all over the world, particularly for graduate school. You don't want a bunch of dumb rich people in the United States going to the top schools. We won't have the top schools. That's kind of how it works internationally. As someone who's been brought to another country of where they bring the best, and then they wonder, why are you here? That's why. So, but I just want to say that I'm trusting the Trump administration, that they are on this. They know that it's an intelligence threat. And as far as the H-1B visa thing, I like that they're charging $100,000 to the businesses for every one of those, now that they're bringing people from India for engineering and various things, particularly in California, for H-1B visa. That's all.
All right, and then just one thing, Samantha cannot open her mic. She wanted me to read that Chinese international students were the most apolitical demographic I encountered while actively promoting Maoism. So that's interesting. Next response is R.R. Halda. Go ahead.
Hi. I teach at 3 different colleges. And interestingly enough, what I see personally is that my international students, especially my Asian students, primarily Japan, South Korea, and China, are my best students. I see a real sense of lack of caring, lack of knowledge, lack of preparation from my US students. In fact, it's actually really frightening how unprepared they are for college. Some of them can't write, half of them can't comprehend, they can't critically think. And we've had this discussion in the past, where I actually think it's almost like a planned thing that's been going on for the last 20 or 30 years to make our population stupid, or at least ignorant and unable to critically think and even question what's going on. But what I'm trying to say is I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that are creating, excellent ideas, especially in tech, that are being stolen. But I'm just not so sure how you're going to handle that when we have such a disparity between, our international students and our American students. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Sketch, you're next.
Yes, you have to understand the level of bribery that there is in this. China spends around $7 billion on NGOs and universities to their Confucius Institute. Qatar is spending upwards of $6 billion. The Saudis are spending $4.2 billion. These students, let's say they come with the best intentions. You have 2 problems. They're being indoctrinated here by some of the funding that's going into these NGOs. They're being accepted because of the bribery that's going on into these universities through funding from directly from the governments of China, calling it donations and whatnot. And you also have the fact that it doesn't matter how good the intentions of the student is, if you can take their families hostage and say, go get me, I'm watching you, I'm looking that you're in the virology program, go get me this, or I'm going to kidnap your mom and dad. So you could have the best hearted student, hardest worker. He's going to do what he has to do to save his mom and dad. Right. So you can have these kind of influence operations through subversion, through threats. And I'm going to tell you something else. I don't know if that's the case in China. I know there's a lot of bribery in China about their methodological systems. Like, even if I would put a student that bribed their way through a Chinese school to be still probably on average a better student than the American students we're sending. Like, that's just my experience, even with my own daughter. She just doesn't seem to understand this stuff. It's basic, drives me crazy. But I would still put that there's a lot of fraud. And the highest fraud, and I want anybody to challenge on me this, study it, look it up. The highest fraud is coming from India, not from China. They have whole fake university factories created for these H-1B programs, fake alleged companies where you're allegedly already working as a tech engineer and all this. And it's just a giant scheme. There's a guy called Tyler Oliveira. He makes everyone angry because whenever he looks at a community, he's gonna look at the worst of the stuff. So the Muslims get angry at him, the Jewish people get angry at him, the Indians get angry at him. Like everyone gets angry at him. But when you look at his report on India, and when you see other reports, because I knew this even before his video came out, there is a lot of fraud in the H-1B program. So just because our students are very, very bad doesn't mean that we have to automatically accept that the rest of them are not doing some shady stuff. I will admit they're probably, on average, a little better.
All right, Armin, you're next, and the last response. We'll move on to the next topic.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you some of my opinions, and then I'm gonna go through the facts that I found. First of all, I don't like the anti-billionaire hate here because when we say billionaires they only want to get rich, they don't care about others. I mean, that's exactly how United States become the greatest country on earth, is by people just trying to get rich. We created the system that exists in United States is a system where when people just try to enrich themselves and make themselves rich, they can only do it by providing the best product, the best services at the best prices, at the highest quality, to the highest number of people. That's how you become a billionaire. And billionaires caring for themselves is exactly the model that made the United States the greatest country on the planet, right? So we want our billionaires to focus on enriching themselves, and we need, like, that's the whole point of capitalism, is to create a system where when people are serving themselves, they have to serve the society through serving themselves, right? So because we can't rely on people just being kind and generous. We want people to be kind and generous, but we don't want to create a system where we require people to stop caring for themselves to better society, right? When it comes to the Chinese students, so the Chinese students coming to United States is, I don't think the problem that we need to solve. The problem that we need to solve is keeping them here and creating them, and them not going back, right? And them turning them to people who are serving the United States rather than China. That's the challenge here. That's what we need to solve. Okay, because another way that United States has turned into the global superpower is stealing other people's geniuses, right? That's something that made the United States a superpower. You talk about them stealing our tech, which is true, but the United States has successfully have stolen their best of their best brains, and not just them, but from the whole planet. And the brain drain has been really hurting them. So, and it's really been helping United States for decades and decades. So if you could keep that up, that would be great. So, and also when it comes to all the NGOs doing the brainwashing from China, that's very true. China spends a lot of money on NGOs brainwashing students in the United States. And it's interesting that it works the best on white students for some reason. So there are a lot of Chinese students in the United States, but the NGOs brainwashing the students has less effect on the Chinese students, and for some reason more on the white students for some good reason. And also when it comes to H-1B, there's a lot of fraud in the H-1B visa, and I do agree with that. I just think it needs to be reformed rather than getting rid of the visa. But when it comes to Trump, let me actually look at what the facts are. I'm going to try to go through this really quickly. saying, in a surprising political development, President Donald Trump has expressed a remarkably supportive stance regarding Chinese students attending American universities. Following his two-day diplomatic summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing, Trump sat down for an interview with Fox News host Sean Hannity, where he explicitly defended the presence of Chinese students in the United States. This view marks a major pivot from some of his past rhetoric and sparked a significant conversation across the political spectrum. Trump has firmly stated that he wants Chinese students to study in the United States and is perfectly fine with welcoming roughly 500,000 of them. His primary stance includes rejecting student bans and as insulting. He says student bans are insulting. Trump declared that telling a country its people aren't welcome in American schools is very insulting thing to tell a country. And then in an even bigger policy twist, Trump mentioned that for good students who want to remain in America after graduation, the U.S. should give them green cards to keep their talent in the country. He noted that this policy should apply to top international students from all countries, not just China, and also acknowledging that his stance goes against traditional conservative talking points. Trump stated, "Not everybody agrees with me, and it doesn't sound like a very conservative position. I'm really a common sense guy. I think more than a conservative guy." And let me go to. So regarding the stealing of the tech, let me quickly read this. Trump does not support a blanket ban, but favors intense screening under policies like, I don't know how to pronounce this. Hold on, let me figure out the pronunciations for this. What the hell is this word? Oh, Proclamation 143, enacted during his first term and strictly maintained. The U.S. blocks visas for any Chinese graduate students and researchers who have ties to the Chinese military or institutions supporting Beijing's military civil fusion strategy. So basically, Trump wants better screening rather than a ban on Chinese students. Okay. So, and then also cracking down on proxy networks. The Trump administration actively targets tech siphoning. The White House Office of Science and Technology Policy and Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently warned that China is executing industrial scale proxy campaigns to steal American AI and tech secrets because federal agencies have ramped up investigations and background checks into these networks. New international student enrollment in the US has dropped by roughly 20%. And also the green card brain drain defense. Okay, Trump's proposal to offer green cards to top graduates is actually his direct response to the tech theft. His logic is that if the U.S. educates brilliant minds and then kicks them out, they will take that cutting edge American knowledge straight back to Beijing to build competing industries. By keeping the vetted good students in America, the U.S. traps the talent and ensures the innovations benefits the American economy instead of Chinese military industrial complex. So this is exactly what I was talking about. Interesting. This is the brain drain that I'm talking about. That this actually China really suffers from this. I don't know if people understand how much China suffers from losing all of their best talents. This is like a more of an anti-China policy rather than an anti-American policy. If a brilliant Chinese engineer stays in Silicon Valley, Beijing loses that asset. Trump's core argument is that deporting them forces them to go home and build competing industries against America. A massive percentage of top US tech and AI startups are founded by former international students. Proponents argue that the US maintains superpower status by hoarding global genius. The catch is aggressive screening. The goal is to weed out state-sponsored spies through intense background checks. But once clear, use green card or fast-track visas to permanently keep the peaceful, brilliant minds. You have to basically make the American
30
life...
seconds, Armin, 30 seconds.
Oh, all right. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry.
Thank you. No. Thank you. Great modding. That's good. All right.
Okay, we have to move on to the next topic. We have 30 more minutes. All right. So Sketch has a new topic. What is material support for terror networks is what he wrote.
Oh my god, I don't even know what that. Okay, let's see what that
Yeah,
is.
I don't know
Go
either.
ahead. I don't know what that is.
Sketch, go ahead.
Yes. Under the law, well, there was a Marco Rubio made some comments on us going against Antifa. We were talking about the terror networks that are connected to Iran, and you know that they have their supporters of Hezbollah. So you know we do know that there are terrorists and that there is terrorist support. It's defined as money or funding, weapons, explosive, training, expertise, transportation, housing, communication equipment, or false documents, right? But there is another level to that comes from when you coordinate with a terror group and they direct you to create propaganda, translate materials, or promote them, right? So when we have people that are IRGC basically mouthpieces that are lying over here, that's material support. When you provide services to the group, such as training their members in media skill, giving them expert advice on public messaging, acting as their recruiter or spokesperson, hosting safe haven for their media operations. Why am I talking about this? Because I think we should include Antifa as an international terrorist group, because they run cover for a lot of these operations and fund them. And they are violent. We know they are violent. We know they recommend violence. And that was one of my problems with Pam Bondi, that she designated them a home terrorist group, which basically is very ambiguous and very different from assigning them as an international terrorist group. So I think we should be weary of what is support groups. I think these should be extended beyond just the IRGC branches into what those branches become when they get here, because it's a lot of these same Chinese communist and Putin criminal government that's funding the Antifa and the IRGC and all these people. These things are connected. They're not going to spend $7 billion on it if they don't think it serves their goal. And they don't only do it here, they do it all over Europe. Actually, Antifa is a lot more, I would say it's even more violent in Europe. Here they have like beatings, but over there it gets crazy. So I think we should be more aware of how far beyond just the Islamic terror networks this goes, and how it congeals and cooperates with leftist terrorist networks.
All right. Responses. Sophie is first.
Sorry, it'll be quick because I actually originally thought Sketch had a question because I saw him ask it in chat earlier, so I didn't understand. But I agree with everything he said. It also includes, providing personnel, anything you can think of as a service. And so, like that terrorist guy earlier, he specifically is using Shia theology type things, which Armin probably would be. I wish Armin could see all the social media that guy had done, because he's going after teenagers. And 18 plots within 3 months is amazing. That guy needed to be stopped. So all that service stuff. Anyway, that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Sophie. Jeff, you're next.
Yeah, so as per the report that I put in response to people asking if Antifa was actually a thing, it really is. Antifa, or Anti-Fascisti Action, that was started by the German Communist Party in 1932 and evolved consistently throughout the Soviet and now post-Soviet era, has direct organization operational ties with any number of transnational crime syndicates, to include Islamic fundamentalist terrorists and or Kurdish separatist groups. So, I mean, the idea, anybody who tries to tell you that Antifa is not a thing or doesn't exist and or does not have organization operational ties with any number of hostile sub-state transnational terrorist organizations, including fundamentalists, like Islamic fundamentalist terrorists, is either stupid, lying, or trying to sell you something. I point anybody to go look up the report that I put in the school chat. It's all cited. It goes right down the line from when they were created, where they were created from, all the way through the Soviet era of the Cold War, and all of the war tourism that those little fuckers did when they would go to different areas of conflict to gain skill sets and then go back to their home country and start implementing the shit they learned over there to kill people in their home nation.
All right, Armin, you're next.
I just wanted to check if Antifa, because I agree Antifa is a terrorist group, but just want to see like legally can they be considered. So on September 22nd, 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order officially designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. Furthermore, the U.S. Department has formally designated specific violent European Antifa cells, such as Germany's Antifa OST and certain cells in Italy and Greece, as specifically designated global terrorists. Specially designated global terrorists. So this is actually a thing, SDGTs. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, but by structural and statutory definitions, so national security agencies like the FBI, courts, and legal scholars emphasize that Antifa is a decentralized ideology and movement, and not a single cohesive organization. So I don't know, like that, you could say the same thing about Al Qaeda or ISIS, and we call them, they're somewhat decentralized. I don't know why we don't. That doesn't stop us from calling them terroristic movements. But because it lacks central leadership, a hierarchy, or an official membership roster, enforcing a sweeping domestic terror label faces immense constitutional and structural hurdles under U.S. law. So let me see. Following an escalation of political violence in late 2025, the White House took unprecedented steps to classify the movement under terror frameworks. So the executive order characterized Antifa as a militaristic and anarchist enterprise and directed federal agencies to use available legal authorities to investigate and dismantle operations associated with it. By the way, I think that like there are many local leaders. Do you need to have like a central leadership to be able to call it like a terrorist group? There are many different local leadership in different places. So I don't know why that would not make them. Yeah. In November 2025, the U.S. State Department utilizes its authority under international emergency powers to block assets and restrict funding to specific organized militant anti-fascist groups operating overseas. So why the classification is legally complex, while individuals associated with the movement have been prosecuted for violent criminal acts such as arson, assault, and property damage during protests. Applying a blanket terrorist organization label to Antifa as a whole is complicated by several factors: ideology versus organization. I already mentioned that, by the way. Lack of domestic terror status. Unlike foreign entities like ISIS or Al Qaeda, there is no specific U.S. federal crime called domestic terrorism that permits a broad group designation. Instead, domestic extremists are prosecuted for the individual crimes they commit. And the legal experts and civil rights organizations point out that attempting to outlaw a decentralized political ideology raises several constitutional concerns regarding freedom of speech and peaceful assembly. I don't understand this. Their assembly is not peaceful, making a permanent domestic ban ripe for judicial challenges. Okay, so that's what I have. Anybody has any opinions about what I just read?
Samantha can't open her mic, but she wants me to read this. She says, Antifa are not terrorists. We just need to break their alliances with Islamists.
Well, no, we need to destroy Antifa. Like Antifa, even no, we don't. No, and Antifa, it's even if you don't want to legally call them terrorists, breaking their alliance with Islamists doesn't make them not. I mean, without their alliance with Islamists, their entire ideology and everything is that they stand for is like is garbage and should be destroyed as the plague that it is, obviously. So even without connections to Islam, Antifa is I hope we could be successful in labeling them as a terrorist organization. Antifa does not need any help from Islam to be a disgusting, vile organization that it is. That needs to end. We need to eliminate Antifa in whatever means, by whatever means necessary, even if they had zero connections to Islam.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any responses for this yet. We have 3 more topics left, and I think we can make it if we try right now. Oh, Guy wants to say something, but be very quick, okay? We have 20 more minutes. Thank you.
I've mentioned this before, but I don't think you can just take Antifa as it is and separate it from supporting Islamism. Like making Antifa so that it wouldn't be able, so that it wouldn't support Islamism would make it very different than what it is. It's like a core part of the ideology to undermine whatever the hegemony is. The only way to get them to be against the opponents of the hegemony is to have an Islamic world. Then the communists would oppose that, and then it would be too late because they'd just be murdered.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you, Guy.
It's within their DNA to support Islam. But yeah.
All right, moving on to a new topic, and we're back to Iran. Sadato wants to talk about Iranian uprising tactics.
Wait, hold on. Let me write that.
Hello.
down. Iranian uprising tactics. Hello, Sadato.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so here's kind of how I'm seeing the Reza Pahlavi's call to action could unfold without like tons of weaponry and arming a bunch of people. Tell me what you think. Okay, so I think the call to action to topple the Islamic regime will probably not occur in one day or a week, but probably a prolonged campaign lasting months, with the populace working in shifts. With tens of millions of participants, even if unarmed, a sustained campaign could be launched that would totally overwhelm the resources of the regime to cope. In other words, like just with the sheer numbers of people who would be, like you would saturate the streets with, without even like a small percent, like 2% of the population uprising, which means that you could probably sustain that kind of revolt for months. And I don't see how the Islamic regime could, obviously there will be casualties, but I don't see how the Islamic regime could withstand an onslaught like that.
Wait, you're saying without arming the Iranian people, if we get 2% of the population to rise up, the Islamic Republic would not be able to survive that?
No, I'm saying, okay, so the revolt will occur like within, like in a day, right? Like there'll be a 1 day of revolt, but then you could work, if you work in shifts, you could sustain that like day after day after day. You could have millions of people on the streets, literally overwhelming any kind of any kind of ability for the Islamic regime, the Basij or whoever to respond. Obviously, there will be massive casualties, and obviously, any kind of armed citizenry would be a plus. It would be a bonus, but just the logistics of millions of people on the streets day after day after day, I would think would completely overwhelm the capacity of the regime.
Okay, so, and you're saying 2%?
Well, 2% per day, like in 1 day, 2%. Next day, another shift, 2%, right?
Okay, so let's examine that, okay? Because let's look at what happened in early January, right? So, in early January, the estimates suggest, and this was European intelligence system, suggested that all over Iran, about 5 million Iranians came out, right? So 5 million out of close to 90 million Iranians inside Iran is more than 5%. Okay, it's like closer to 6%, right?
Right.
So,
I don't see this happening like across Iran. Like I would think that it would occur within, highly popular, like Tehran, for instance, right? So like, let's say there's 10 million people in Tehran, right? That would be like,
so 10 million.
How many people would it take to saturate the streets of Tehran, for instance, like in terms of like a protest?
Okay, so 10 million 10 million people in Tehran is more than half of Tehran, right?
Oh, it is? Okay. What's the population of Tehran?
It's like 17 million.
Okay, so if a small percentage of that saturated the streets day after day after day, wouldn't they be able to completely overwhelm the
Only in Tehran?
message? Well, I'm just
But
giving
that's
it
what
as an
happened
example.
already. That already happened in January.
So why wouldn't that be a way to secure, like, once they overtake Tehran?
Well, they
couldn't
can't.
they?
Let me tell you. Okay, so if you only
Okay.
focus on Tehran, that means that the Islamic Republic can bring all of its security, all of its forces to Tehran. If you don't have protests in other places,
Right.
right? And also, if you have, so let me examine what you're trying to do. But by the way, I said that I really appreciate you trying to find a way to liberate Iran. Like, this is, I really, you have such a big heart, and I really appreciate your support, right? If we have millions of Iranians in the streets, okay, and they're unarmed, and then the regime forces are come to the streets and they start shooting into the crowds, what happens then?
Well, see, from my, okay, so here's what I don't understand. I don't understand how Prince Reza Pahlavi's call to action is going to unfold. So I'm trying to trying to simulate that in my head. Like how?
So that's
how
what
is
we're
that
trying
going
to do.
to?
We're trying to think about that, right? Because what do you if you have millions of Iranians in the streets, and then the regime forces come out, and there's crowds of people into the streets, and they take machine guns and they start shooting into the crowds of people, what do you think happens next?
Well, I'm assuming there'll be some support, some limited, maybe like a small percentage of armed support, possibly through drones or whatever. I'm assuming it's going to be very limited, though. Just, because obviously the logistics of large crowds with, military support, I just don't see how that could be organized. So that's why I see they'll
So
probably
some limited drone support, if that doesn't stop the regime armed forces to keep shooting into crowds of people with machine guns, then what would
Yeah.
happen?
Well, I'm assuming that there'll be high casualties in the initial phases, but then if they can keep it up day after day after day,
They can't keep. We know they can't. We know they couldn't keep it up because we had 5 million Iranians in the streets of Iran, and given that once the shooting started, the crowd had to leave. We know you can't just stand there while you're being shot at, right? So it's like we can't, like, they wouldn't be able to keep it up. If you're just standing there and there's armed forces shooting into you, you can't continue to just stay there, right?
right?
And
But I mean, I'm assuming
yeah.
I'm assuming there will be some limited military support. So, for instance, when they do come out, I'm assuming that there will be U.S. I don't know, pinpoint strikes or
So this
drone
is why,
strikes or
but
whatever.
we don't know. But
Yeah.
this is why I think we should just arm the Iranian people, because we don't know. But we don't know if there will be, and we don't know if it's going to, even if there is, if it's going to be good enough.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
So
I'm just kind of yeah.
Yep. No, go on. Sorry.
I'm just wondering how these weapons are going to ever get to the Iranian people. I just don't. I just logistically, I don't know. Like how would that even happen?
There are ways. I mean, it's a good question. I could look into that if you want, and maybe, yeah, actually, that would be something that I think, what, in my next stream, which is starting with Ali here, that's something that we could brainstorm. That what are the different ways to get weapons into the hands of Iranians? That's a very good question, right? That's a very good question, and I would love to brainstorm that with you guys could, if anybody has any ideas here, put a 2 in the chat. My idea was to liberate Bandar Abbas, right? And then Americans would liberate Bandar Abbas, and then Prince Reza Pahlavi would put a call to action to the Iranian people to come to Bandar Abbas from all around the world. And Prince Reza Pahlavi's team, along with the Israeli Mossad and the agents inside Iran, would vet the Iranians who are coming to Bandar Abbas, vet them, and then we have Ukrainian soldiers train them with drone technology and also how to use guns. Ukrainian soldiers would train them, and then we will create an Iranian army starting from Bandar Abbas, keep expanding and taking more territory until they get to Tehran. That was my plan. That was the plan I suggested, but we could see what other people think here. But one thing I want to add here is that many of us, and Nora, I don't know if you want to comment on this, because I want to admit that we were wrong about something. We Iranians thought that once Iranian people come into the streets in the millions, it's over. Like, that was our assumption, that once the Iranian people come into the streets on an uprising, the Islamic Republic will fall and it will overwhelm them. We weren't prepared for what the Islamic Republic did in early January. We were not at all prepared for that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we were thinking that something would happen for sure, but definitely not to this extent. And a lot of the people that did go out were expecting something to happen, because we do have instances where their families are saying, well, they left letters and notes for them before they were leaving, like if I don't come back or stuff like that. But absolutely not to this extent. I mean, within not even 2 days. Okay, 2 days is 48 hours. Armin has said this before. 10 hours in the timeline of 10 hours is when they killed all those people. So yeah, I mean, this is why I'm saying the next uprising, we need the forces there. They need to target the security forces that are machine gunning people, basically. And that was the main obstacle, right? That was the main obstacle.
Yeah. By the way, you should ask Nora more questions. She has a lot of deep information about Iran and the people.
I mean, I don't know about that, but I can give insights on the Armenians of Iran and the Christians of Iran and stuff like that, because I know there's a lot of arguments and misconceptions on that, but I can give insights on the Armenian community over there. But maybe some other time, because we only have 7 minutes left.
Okay, let's go through it.
And yeah, so Ian, very quickly, okay, maybe like 1 minute. Go ahead.
Okay, so Sadato, I really appreciate you bringing up this topic, and I hope we can keep brainstorming on these ideas and asking as many questions as possible about how this can work. I've been asking similar questions, and one of the things that I've been thinking about is what infrastructure and supply chains can be overwhelmed by general strikes, sabotage, boycotts, and other forms of protest that don't expose people to being shot in the streets. So I want to just put that out there, that we really should be thinking more about those types of protests. And then the other thing I've been thinking about is, how can you maximize defections? And one thing I'll say about that is that there's a lot of stick and not much carrot. And what I'm hoping to see is more of a message about what people can expect if they do defect and what can incentivize them to do that. In the research I've done, it seems like it's possible that more than 50%, if not nearly 80% of current members of the various militaries will not be subject to prosecution after a revolution. Who knows about these numbers, but it could be fairly large. And in the case of those people, I think you really need to incentivize them to defect by showing them that they're going to have a reasonable life after the power shifts. And so I just want to put that out there, that I think that that's super important. But I really, really appreciate as much brainstorming on this topic as possible, because we can do all the things that we're talking about. We can arm people. We can continue the bombing. We can continue the blockade. But there are many other things we could do that could potentially really push the needle over the edge. And so I want to push for that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ian. Guy, you're next. 1 minute.
Okay, so first of all, in terms of getting the weapons in, as we said, the border is porous. It goes both ways. They absolutely cannot guard the whole border of this huge country. I think they're expecting it to come from sea, so and it'll be easy to find that way. My guess would be Azerbaijan as the main, like, we have free access to Azerbaijan. It's easy to get stuff in there and through there. And now after the treaty with Armenia, potentially for Armenia as well. But I'm not as I know Azerbaijan is more comfortable in terms of like long-standing relations and being opposed to the IRGC and so on. As for what happens inside Iran, we were not expecting it in January. We are expecting it now. So like we know that they're capable of basically anything now. We weren't sure earlier. The issue then becomes, what tools do they have? But I don't think they have many more tools. And first of all, that's intelligence. That's easy to find, and I don't think they have much more than what they used in January.
It's okay. We could go like 2 minutes longer.
Okay, sounds good. Go ahead.
I mean, they have way less of everything now than they did in January. So whatever they did in January, I think, is the maximum of what they're capable of doing. The question is the numbers. Maybe they'll have more people, but we'll have more people as well, and our people will be ready, and we'll have drones and other stuff from the air to stop them. So I don't think I assume that they're going to try to do anything and everything that they can to stop it. I just don't think it's going to be a lot. And knowing what their capabilities are is something that we have way more of a handle on, like intelligence-wise.
I don't know if you saw, they're now, yesterday they started
teaching
pro-regime people on TV on how to use guns, and they now want to just they just want to give guns to pro-regime Iranians to basically shoot at the uprising. So
yeah, but first of all, they're not trained. Second of all, the people will be ready for it. And third of all, let's say it's 100. You threw out the number 100,000 last night. Let's say that's true. I mean, we already assumed a few 100,000 operatives. No, like, so we'll have some of them would be amateurs. I don't see how that meaningfully changes the calculus, assuming you have both air raids to minimize their capabilities, drones, and some form of armed population that's specifically trained at finding the threats as they're coming and taking them out, especially if those threats are untrained and just are carrying a firearm from the opposite side. And if someone does it from inside the protest, then unfortunately they'll kill a few people, but everyone is around them, so they'll really be able to take them out easily.
Yeah, but one way we were thinking that maybe the best way to arm the Iranian people is to tell them to go act like jihadi retards, and wherever they're handing out guns to the pro-regime people, and just get a gun. I don't know. Okay, right.
All right, Sketch, you're next, and then Armin is gonna leave.
Okay, what I'd like to say about this, I hope we're not talking about before the strikes, because if you try to do anything before the strikes, they're just going to get slaughtered, right? I hope we're talking about after the strikes, once the strikes commence. I think we're going to have a lot more coordination on what to do once the strikes commence. I'm infantry, all right? I know how easy it is to kill us. It's very easy. Like a good shot in the leg or the arm can just bleed you out, all right? There's things you can do, but we're not bulletproof, right? We do get hit, like even well-trained, even in the Maduro raid, because we got good equipment and we got good medical stuff. Dude is fine, but he got hit, right? We're not bulletproof, so you don't want to send infantry just in the street until you know you have cover, until you know things are happening. So I understand, like, this was my whole point with we hit 13,000 targets. I understand that hunger and suffering can demoralize and it can create desperation, but desperation cannot lead to foolish action. All right, you can't just go out there and start protesting or have some flashpoint because some person got executed and it felt like it's gone too far. You can't just head out there willy-nilly. I would say wait for the strikes. The strikes are coming. Every point on the graph draws a line to that. You don't want to just waste lives. All right, I'm a soldier willing to give my life, and I am sure I have that in common with some of those protesters, but that's not a thing to be wasted. You want to live for your country. You don't want to die for it unless it's absolutely necessary. So, stand by. And we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know. We think nothing has happened, but we don't know. We have a whole bunch of stuff. We don't even have to go into the details of that. I'm sure stuff is going on. So let's just try to let calmer heads prevail and tell those people, hey, we hit 13,000 targets. We had to rearm and resupply. Don't be disheartened. We have done more than anyone in 47 years, and we're not done.
Thank you, Sketch. Thank you. Well, Armin's time is up. I wanted to thank everybody for being understanding of the time limits. Armin, did you want to add something?
No, I just wanted to thank you. You're amazing, and thank you for modding. Fantastic job. Hopefully I get to hear Nara more often. Like, I do want to hear. Nara has a lot of interesting thoughts. Every time she's here, I'm hoping to hear some of her ideas. So maybe some other time, but I know when you're modding, it's hard to also, talk as well.
Yeah.
But when I'm gone, the conversation. Nara, are you going to be sticking around, or do you have to go after I leave?
I can stick around for a bit, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, guys, like Nara, a lot of people are interested in Christianity and the Christian community in Iran. So when I leave, you guys could, because guys, when I for people on YouTube, when I leave, the conversation here continues, right? So if you have any
disclaimer though, disclaimer, because I'm an atheist, but
yeah, no, she's an atheist. She's an atheist, but your background is within the Christian community in Iran, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So she would know. I mean, of course, you're an atheist. You're an Iranian. I'm just kidding. Okay. True. Okay. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
I can talk about how the church operates inside Iran. I think you would want to hear that, Armin.
Oh my God! You know what? Now I'm jealous. You know what? Don't ask her that. Don't ask her that, because I want to have that conversation with her. Okay, please don't ask her that. Now I'm going to be missing out on a very interesting conversation. God damn it.
Yeah,
all right,
no worries. We'll talk about that.
Okay. All right, guys. So I'm going to end the recording, and also soon, I hope it stops. Stop recording. Stop it. Oh my. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to head out. I'm Israel Chai. Long live America. Javicha. Payande Iran. See you guys same time tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Bye, Armin.